Hi everyone. Hope my voice is audible to everyone. You can just give a thumbs up so that it gives an indication that my voice is clear. Yeah, thank you so much. So good evening everyone. Thank you so much for joining our today's session. Today's topic of discussion is Zoho Workplace. And before we deep dive into the solution, our hero solution, that is Zoho Workplace, I would take a minute for a quick announcement. The platform that we are conducting this webinar is a Zoho meeting platform. You can explore the platform. There are a couple of options. In case if you have any input, any questions, please do use the chat part, which is in the footer part of your screen. There is also a reaction button where you could send your reaction thumbs up so that we can make it more engaging. Whenever you like any kind of a slide, any kind of information, please do engage and please do respond to that. Coming back to the topic, we have host of panels on the board who would respond to your queries, and the presenter for today's session is Mr. Prashant Mutbidri, who is a director and one of the co-founder for Logix Infosecurity. From Zoho Workplace team, we have Mr. Rafiq Rakib, who has joined with us. And also in this session, we have one of our customer who would share his live experience. They have started to use Zoho Workplace and they would share their experience, their feedback on how the platform was. So the entire session is recorded. We will definitely share the recording link with all of you. So let's get this started. I request Mr. Prashant Mudbidri to please take it over.
Hello. Am I visible and audible? And my screen has to be shared. Is it shared?
Yeah, you can share.
Yeah. Can I begin? Yeah. So thank you very much for attending this session, taking time out from your busy schedule and attending this Zoho Workplace session. I'm sure it will be really enriching and it will definitely open up a lot of areas of your workplace productivity part. Yeah, let's begin. So before we start this, we have onboarded many customers on Zoho Workplace, and there are certain reasons why customers have adopted Zoho Workplace. The first is it is a very full-featured enterprise-made and productivity suite. It has its native desktops and mobile app of its native, which is uh, third party. Now we have the entire suite of Zoho Office, which includes a writer, a sheet, and a presenter with desktop applications. Because there are many solutions which give online, but now it has desktop applications as well. Built-in security, which Zoho Workplace and Zoho MailLite comes with built-in email security. Zoho Workplace comes with mobile application management as well. It offers coexistence with Office 65 and Google Workplace, and basically it's a cloud-based solution resident data residency in India. These are some of the reasons why customers have adopted Zoho, and one of the reason that customer also has wanting to adopt Zoho is one, it is made in India, so that we don't have to send dollar remittance outside India, and there is predictability of cost, which is not certain with certain solutions like the leading ones, which you all know, which keep galloping their cost year on year, and that makes it very difficult to manage those budgets, IT budgets. Now, the latest part of inclusion with Zoho is the inbuilt AI capabilities, which for other solutions, you will have to basically subscribe for their AI solutions like Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, which is paid solutions. Whereas Zoho wants to extend their AI capabilities to all its users, so that actually the user starts using AI, but and the data doesn't go out to the public cloud. So this is the latest addition to the feature sets, and this is going to be the feather in the cap, which is prompting customers to look at Zoho and adopt Zoho. Let's look at the growth Logix has done with Zoho Workplace and promoting Zoho Workplace in the marketplace. We started in the year 2024-25 with 50 customers onboarding. In FY 25-26, we reached up to 128 customers. Now that we are halfway through in this year, we have already onboarded 97 customers. We hope that by March end, we should cross 250 customers. That's steep growth. And we see that this projectile is ever growing. That's thanks to all the customers who are appreciating the solution, wanting to reduce cost for themselves, also wanting to give a feature-rich solution to their users. And that's the reason why Zoho has been having a phenomenal acceptance and growth in the marketplace. Now let's look at some of the customers who have Logix customers who have adopted Zoho. And we thank one of our customers from Vishwasamudra, who wants to share his experience of adopting Zoho, and he would tell you the reasons why they opted for Zoho for partial users right now, and later on they would be probably increasing the number of user headcounts on Zoho. With this, I would like to hand over the deck to my colleague from Zoho, Mr. Rakib Rafiq. He will be not only explaining all the features and functionalities of Zoho, but also demonstrating the solution. So over to you, Rakib. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prashant. Let me just share my screen. I'll take over from you now. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Can you all see my screen? If you can give me a thumbs up, that will be good. I know we are making you do these.
Hear you.
Can you all hear me as well? Sorry, another thumbs up. They can hear me as well. Awesome. Okay, so before I begin, so my session is going to be about a deep dive into Zoho Workplace, about what Prashant said. I'm Rakib. I've been with Zoho for the last 10 years. When I actually joined Zoho, interestingly, not a lot of people really knew about what Zoho was and what we did or what kind of software we built and things like that. But interestingly, in the last 5-6 years, I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about Zoho. A lot of you would have seen in the news about what Zoho is doing with a lot of different entities and enterprises in India and across the world. So my job here is to make you understand what Zoho really does in terms of the workplace aspect, the productivity and collaboration software here. If you have questions throughout the course of my presentation, what you can do is, I see some of you have raised your hands to ask questions. Unfortunately, because we have a lot of people on board today, we may not be able to take up audio questions. So if you can drop your questions on the Q&A tab. So if you have on the bottom, you'll have a Q&A tab here in the Zoho meeting interface. If you can post your questions there, any questions, whatever doubts that you have throughout the course of my presentation. My team is actually here. So we are 4 or 5 people here live to answer your questions. So feel free to drop your questions there. We will answer these live as my presentation is going forward. Awesome. I guess that's about it. So let me start off with those who probably wouldn't know a lot about Zoho as to, hey, what does Zoho really do and things like that. So we've been around for almost 30 years now. It's been a long journey. We did different businesses long back in terms of different technology types. We entered into the cloud space in 2005. Interestingly, with an Office suite itself, I'll tell you more about that in some time. We have spread our operations across different parts of the world. Now we are 20,000 plus of Zohoites, Zoholics, whatever you want to call it. We're 20,000 of us now in different parts of the world. We've also spread geographically across. Our earlier offices were in Chennai and in Texas and in Pleasanton in California. And from there, we've actually expanded to across different parts of the world. When we did this, we are also expanding by bringing up data centers in those countries as well. So we have two in India, one in Mumbai and one in Chennai, which act as a primary and a secondary data center. But we also do this in other countries so that we make sure data sovereignty is something a lot of countries can make sure that the data doesn't leave the country. So that means the very sensitive businesses like finance, hospitality, or medical sciences, all of those businesses can actually come into the picture and work with Zoho because the sensitive data never leaves the country. So a lot of our investment has been in those areas, expanding locally. We call this transactional localism. So we expand locally, expand offices, and contribute back to the economy in those regions, in those countries. Thanks to this, we've been onboarded, we've been trusted by a lot of different popular brands across the world, in India and across the world. The journey has been quite interesting, like I said. So I'm not sure how many of you know this. A lot of people would think, okay, Zoho started off with a CRM, Zoho started off with a projects management app, things like that, or an accounting app. And a lot of you know Zoho as an accounting app. So interestingly, we started in 2005 with a cloud word processor. So we started off with our Office suite, which is the segment of apps that we're talking about today. So we started off with an Office suite. Then we started introducing other apps that a business would need to run their cores entirely on the cloud. So today we have different apps, over 60 apps that does multiple things across multiple areas to run your entire business, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's productivity, which is what we're going to talk about today, finance and operations. Basically anything that you need to run your business on the cloud, Zoho will have a solution for that. And interestingly, we've actually not acquired any of these apps from an outside company. So if you're thinking, hey, okay, it's easier to just acquire, spend a lot of money, get a lot of funding from outside, spend the VC money into acquiring a lot of these companies and just stitch together these solutions. So when you work with Zoho, you can rest assured that all of these are actually built from the scratch by Zoho, by our own folks sitting here in my office here in Chennai, where we build all of these apps one by one. We have smaller teams, larger teams building these, and we'll make sure that we are not acquiring any of these from external and then stitching it together. So what happens because of this is because all of these apps will now start working with each other on a native way, on an integrated way. So they talk to each other, they work with each other. So your CRM will work with your email will work with your finance apps, your payroll will work with your HR apps, and things like that by default out of the box. So you make it easy for you as a customer, but we also give you as an entire different suite of apps to choose from to run your business. Another reason why we do this is we also want to give it back to the society. Like we said, Zoho is a heavily R&D focused company. So we like to this. One of the reasons why we develop these, of course, is on the business front, but we also want to develop the know-how within India to make sure we as a global technology company contribute back to our own nation's know-how development, and we make sure we have the skills to develop a presentation app, to develop a CRM, to develop an email app right within the country, so that we make sure we are growing our own skill set back home as well as we are growing the company. So that's kind of the way how Zoho works. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the questions tab. So the segment that we're talking about today, like I said, is the Zoho Workplace Suite. So Zoho Workplace is our flagship collaboration suite. So I'd like to call this as a combination of 3 different mini suites. So it is a combination of an email suite, an office suite, and a communication suite. So when I say email suite, we have emails, calendars, tasks, and all of those like you expect from an email suite built into Zoho as one unified module or one unified approach. Then we have the office suite. So Zoho is one of the very few vendors apart from Microsoft and Google who has our own fully fledged. So Prashant mentioned this in the beginning as well. These are fully featured office suite, which means these are not your simple text editors or sheet editors that a lot of other vendors would have right now. But what we've done is we've taken the hard route. We've developed an office suite right from the scratch in a real-time collaboration manner so that you can actually collaborate on these documents right from your browser or from your mobile app or from your desktop app and work on these documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and other files together with your teammates. You can also import your Microsoft Office files, your desktop files, everything back to the Zoho system, edit it and export it back to a Zoho, like a Microsoft Office file as well. I will show you some of that in some time. If you stick around for some more time, I'll do a live demo of some of our Office desktop apps as well. And again, if you have questions, we can take them. From then, we have the communication app, which is part of what you're seeing is the meetings app. So we have our own web conferencing, email, phone systems, meetings, instant messaging. So you can chat with each other. Say you can compare this roughly with something like a Microsoft Teams or a Slack, where you have channels for people to talk to each other. You have individual messaging. You can get on audio video calls quickly. Again, in making your entire company work together in a single suite. We've been doing well in India. Of course, some of you would have heard some of the news that we've been working with the government of India itself to onboard almost 20 lakh employees, government employees, over to the cloud. So we've been migrating them from an older Zimbra system to a latest system as well. But those are actual clientele in India doesn't stop there. We've been privileged, we've been honored by a lot of other larger companies working in India, working with us to onboard or migrate their systems from, say, something like a Microsoft or Google for the last 15, 20 years. Thankfully, a lot of these companies come also from the very sensitive BFSI segment. So the reason I'm highlighting this is some of you would have questions. Hey, how safe is a cloud-based ecosystem? Because I like to have my data on-prem. I like to have my data, residing in a company, residing in my company, and not leaking anywhere else. So one answer to that is look at the clientele that we have. And a lot of these are banks. A lot of these are financial securities companies that actually deal with very, very sensitive information. A lot of them have actually come forward and moved the systems to the cloud with Zoho. So that means we are able to do one thing is that we are able to comply with a lot of the RBI regulations right here. Of course, being an Indian company, it helps us understand the local regulations much better than the others. So we've been doing that. We're also providing a lot of additional security stack that I'll talk about in some time to help make sure that the data never leaves the company's systems. Like Prashant said, we're also doing well across the market, not just in India, but globally. We've been, Zoho's fastest business unit itself is the collaboration segment that we're talking about today. One interesting fact that maybe a lot of you might not know is that it is actually spread evenly across the world. It is not just because we're an Indian company, it is not that it's growing extremely well only in India, but it also actually happens across the world. We're evenly distributed, and we are actually, it's heartening to see the footprint expanding to even non-traditional tech hubs, say something like a Latin America or a Middle East and Africa, where digital transformation is kicking in highly during these days, and we're seeing a lot of growth happening there. Of course, US and Canada remains to be the number one revenue share for us across the world. India is growing faster as well compared to the other regions, but the other regions are keeping up the pace themselves in their Zoho contribution as well. Okay, so that's about the system. Now let me go into the individual apps. I know a lot of you will have questions around these specifically. What I'll do is I'll talk about some of these apps right now, but I'll also show you a demo in probably 5-10 minutes of some of these apps so that you can actually get a look and feel of how these apps work. So you can ask some more questions right away. I've already seen that some of you are dropping some of your questions, which is good. Our team will be able to answer some of these questions live as and when I'm speaking right now. So I encourage a lot more of you to kind of drop in your questions so that we know what your exact problems are. Okay, let's start off with email, which is probably the most important aspect of the entire system, right? So email, of course, is a very, very key aspect to a lot of our businesses. So we understand what our businesses are looking for in terms of emails. A lot of the work that we've done with Zoho Mail is to make sure it is one, enterprise scalable, which means it brings in a lot of technical requirements that you might have. It can connect with a security system that you already have. Say you already have an email gateway, you want to connect Zoho Mail with that, we can do that as well. You face a lot of spam within your company, a lot of phishing attempts, especially in India. We face this a lot these days, where there's a lot of phishing attempts happening. There's a lot of impersonalization attempts happening through email to hack into your system, socially engineered hacks into your system and get your data. So we've made sure we are putting in the efforts against that. So Zoho Mail is an award-winning, has an award-winning spam engine to block the spam that's coming into your enterprise accounts. We're doing really well there. We've also won several other awards for email security as a whole. So you get the point, right? I'm saying, so a lot of our focus with Zoho Mail goes into enterprise security and scalability. We've also introduced a native desktop app quite recently for Zoho Mail as well. We call it Zoho Trident for Zoho Workplace, which is basically a combination of email, chat, calendar, tasks, notes, and everything in a unified interface for your macOS and Windows. So this means it will work offline without an internet connection. However, so those of you, if you have people in your company that is heavily well-versed with Outlook and you wouldn't want to move from a desktop system to a webmail, this is your answer for that. So you can just try the desktop app for Zoho Mail. We call it Trident, which is the native app. We have two different apps. One is a light app, which is basically an Electron app that you can just install and get a web view. But we also have a native app that is called Trident. So once you install that, you get a native experience of how your emails would load into the macOS system or a Windows system, and you can use that as your default email gateway as well. Zoho Mail does another thing really well apart from security is your email user management. So we have a separate dedicated admin console that anybody can use. So this is not a complicated system. We make it extremely simple for you to use. By what that means is that you can actually log in, an admin can log in, you can manage your users. Say you want to add 10 people at once, you can do that. You have multiple domains, for another example. You can manage all of those domains from here. You can also manage your SSL certificates, your encryption certificates, your keys, that if you have additional encryption keys that you want to manage, you can manage your domains settings here, your DKIM, your SPF, and things like that. All of that kind of comes into one place, which is the admin panel that we have. You can control all of this and also get a detailed report. So we have a separate reports tab here with which you can actually get into the detailed analysis of how your account is doing as well. For those of you in the legal area, we also understand that email retention is a key part for you. So that means you can archive a lot of your older emails, put it into e-discovery, and make sure whenever you say you get a legal requirement that you are supposed to submit your older emails, you can actually export some of those older emails from the email e-discovery platform that was built into Zoho Workplace and Zoho Mail, so that you can work with your legal system that way and export those emails or get your entire audit logs and everything managed right within Zoho Mail. Again, if you have any questions on Zoho Mail, feel free to drop them into the questions tab. I'll move on to the next aspect, which is the content collaboration and the Office suite. So we have Zoho Work Drive, which is driving the entire content management aspect of the Zoho Workplace system, which is one place for you to store your files, share your files on the cloud, share with your other people in the company, or even manage access restrictions, user level restrictions, policies, DLPs, and your PII, tagging and labeling and things like that. All of them is actually managed in one place, which is Zoho Work Drive. Zoho Work Drive actually comes in built with it an Office suite as well, with what I was mentioning earlier, right? So we're talking about native Office suites that work with your Microsoft systems. By default, you can import those files and export those Office files back in as well. So we have three editors here. We have Zoho Writer, which is the word processor. Again, like I said, all of these are real-time collaboration enabled, so multiple people can work on the same document. We have Zoho Sheet. It is a spreadsheet app, so you can again edit, collaborate on these spreadsheets, work as exactly as how you work on something like a Microsoft Excel, import an Excel file, export it back to an Excel file, it works as expected. The other app is the presentation app, with which actually I'm running the presentation as well. So if you do like the presentation that I'm doing, it's actually completely created on Zoho Show, which is our presentation app. So one question a lot of you might have, and I'm talking about, hey, Office, online Office suite, how does it work? What about my native files and things like that? My team is quite used to working on the default Explorer, saving it on my hard disk on my laptop, and then just sync it to the cloud and things like that. So we have a sync option by default. We call it the Work Drive True Sync. Once you install that, you can actually bring all your local files to the cloud, or your cloud files to the local Finder or Explorer, whichever platform you use, and work however you want. So that option is completely there using Zoho Work Drive. Like I said, the other option is to go with the Microsoft or the Microsoft Office files, double click on it, and work directly with the Zoho editor. So we have our own Office suite built into your subscription that you would ideally be subscribing to when you're subscribing to a Zoho Workplace plan. So these comes with a native app that can actually work offline, which means here you have a Excel file, you double click on it. You don't really need to be connected to the cloud to convert this into a Zoho thing. You can open it, edit it, save it back to a Microsoft file itself. Only when you say, hey, I want to move this back to the cloud, you can actually move it back to the cloud. So that's how it works. It works fully featured, and it's backward compatible to older Microsoft files as well, which means any feature that Zoho adds into these editors, we make sure it also works with your Microsoft counterpart as well. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat tab. Awesome. I see some more questions coming in. The next final aspect that I spoke about is the communication system, right? So communication is a combination of chat, instant messaging, channels. Say some of you would have been used to your WhatsApp account to run your entire business, your communication, all that. We'd highly recommend you don't do that, because WhatsApp is a personal space. This is the business space for that. So you have channels where you can have your entire team on one space, talk to each other, and collaborate with each other, react to emojis and things like that. Share files. The files automatically get saved into the Zoho system. You can do that. Roughly compare this with a Microsoft Teams interface. We call it Zoho Click. It's one of the best apps that a lot of our employees use, a lot of our customers use across the world when they subscribe to Zoho Workplace. It also brings in the online meetings part, which means you can actually host meetings internally or externally, whether you want to do it within the same company or invite an external person and run this. So Zoho Meeting, the webinar that you see is actually run through Zoho Meetings webinar feature, which again is part of the entire thing that you're seeing. It has other features as well. If you want, again, if you're a larger company, if you want to run an entire event, live stream an event within the company, you can do that within Zoho Click. One final aspect which is part of the communication system is the employee engagement part. A lot of you wouldn't think about this, but there are a lot of SharePoint users out there where they would want to create an intranet within the company. So there is that happen. There is or sharing them on as text or email or as just spreadsheet or things like that. So to avoid that, we've also bundled in Zoho Vault, which is our password management app, is also now part of the Zoho Workplace system. So those are the core apps. Now from there, we come into the security aspect of things. And you're saying, hey, Rakib, all this is fine, but I run a larger company. I want to manage my employees in a secure way. I want to connect it with my existing Microsoft Exchange or Active Directory and things like that. How does it work? Your answer is Zoho Directory. So Zoho Directory is the gateway into the cloud access of all of these apps that I'm speaking about today. So Zoho Directory gives you the directory management, identity, and access management systems built into the Zoho ecosystem to authenticate your employees, create passwords, reset their passwords, or even authorize their own devices. The device that I'm running today the MacBook that we're running today is actually authenticated via Zoho to authenticate your systems. Other hardware in the company is compatible with Zoho directory. It offers authentication, which means no, it's well and good. It's not a problem. You can actually authenticate using your Face ID or Touch ID from your device. You install Zoho One Auth into your phone. You can actually enable multi-factor authentication, whether it's an S thing or even a passwordless sign-in by you scan a QR code and then log into your company. You can do that as well, which is included for free without any other extra charge within the Zoho Workplace ecosystem. We call it Zoho One Auth. Then comes the final aspect of data loss prevention and mobile access management. We get even more deeper into the security aspect. We say, hey, what about, like I said, right? We work with a lot of medical companies, a lot of hospitals. We work with a lot of insurance companies. All of these share a lot of private information, personal sensitive information across on the Zoho WorkDrive cloud, which means we also need to make sure these data is protected and does not leak from your company. So by default, we can scan and categorize your data into sensitive information, private information, and all that, and label these, redact these whenever you try to share this from one company to the other company, which is not part of the company policy. One final aspect is the mobile access management. So that's where things finally go in, right? Okay, all of these apps are good. Now, how do I make sure people only access where they're supposed to access or from devices they're supposed to access, which also comes bundled into the workplace suite, which we call it the mobile access management part. So it gives you secure way to distribute your apps, your Zoho apps into the devices that are authenticated by your company. You can manage your geofencing from here as well, which means you can make sure they're accessing only from areas which are geographically allowed by the company. You can have IP restrictions, which means I don't want any of my company's data to be accessed when an employee is traveling on a vacation, say they're going to Thailand or something like that. I don't want them to access the private data from there. You can do that using mobile access management. Cool. Now let me quickly take you through a demo of some of these apps. In the meanwhile, if you have again questions, feel free to drop them into the questions tab. Okay, I'll just stop sharing my screen and then start it again. There you go. Awesome. So I hope all of you can see my screen again. So this is ideally what a Zoho Workplace dashboard would look like. So as soon as you go into workplace.zoho.com, you're greeted with a unified interface. So all of the things that I spoke about today, right? The mail app, the chat app, the office suite, everything is actually bundled into one single interface so that your employees are not confused about where to go in the morning. You figure out what you're supposed to do for the rest of the day just by coming to this place. That's the entire idea. So within this, you have all of these apps listed right here on top. So you click on mail. This is the Zoho mail interface right here. Like I said, you have your email, calendar, to-do notes, and all of those bundled into the system right here. You have the usual bells and whistles that you would expect from here. You have your email list here. You click on it. You have multiple views to open it. I've chosen a vertical split here, which means my emails would come right from here. You can choose however you want. You can choose between the themes. You have a dark mode, a light mode, and you can choose however you want. We also have a parallel email sharing feature right here, which, of course, if you're interested, you can explore into, we call it streams, where you can have a conversation about an email with the rest of your colleagues. And just like a social media conversation, you can gossip about this particular email, you discuss about it, and if you're not very quite sure about how to respond to this email, you can actually chat with your company employees and then decide how to respond to this. So you can have share right here. We call it streams with an email. Then comes the click part. Like I said, this is the internal communications, your entire business communications in one place. So you have chats, which means you can have direct personal messages and say, hey, I want to talk to my employees right here. You can access them via call, video call, screen share, however you want. You can also have entire bots coming and talking to you right from here. So you set up a third-party app that you have requests into Click so that those also are delivered via message. Developing custom applications. You can compare it with a group, but then it has much more complexities built in terms of access restrictions, default storage, permissions, and things like that, so that you can actually have a very secure conversation with the rest of the team. Again, if you want to start a meeting right from here, you can do that as well. Click on it, start a meeting right from here. Everybody in this part of the channel gets access to that. That's Zoho Click. Then we have Zoho Work Drive, which, like I said, if you were listening to what I was talking about, is our content collaboration document management system. So Zoho Work Drive has two different spaces. So you have on this left, if you see here, you have My Folders, which is basically your own folders, your own space. Nobody has access to this. Of course, you can share it with any of your dear ones that you have within the company. You can do that. But you also have the team folders, is basically one space for your entire company, people to kind of come together and drop whatever they're working on, so that nobody's going around and asking, hey, can you share that file with me? Can you share this with me? Nobody asks that. If you are an organized company, you put all your documents in one team folder so that everybody has access to what everybody else is working on and in terms of files, so that you can share it easily. You can, of course, manage all of these in terms of different roles and permissions. So I have an organizer role, I have an editor role, I have a commentator role, and things like that. So you give different permissions to different people so that they can organize however they want. Then comes the interesting part. A lot of you would be listening to this presentation to understand about what Zoho is doing in terms of the Office suite, right? So there you go. We have three different editors. Like I said, we have the Zoho Writer app, which is basically our word processor. I love working with Zoho Writer. It's been around for, like I said, it's Zoho's first app itself. So again, it's been around forever in terms of maturity. So we've been adding more and more features into it, making it more and more stable, and making sure that it is backward compatible with Microsoft files. So you would expect everything that you would expect of a word processor here and more. We have built-in AI into this. We have built-in suggestions, review suggestions, collaboration, and things like that into this. You can change everything that you want. Say you want to format into this, you can do that. You can change alignment, borders and shading, tables, whatever you think. It is a fully featured word processor right here. Then comes the spreadsheet app, which is Zoho Sheet. The naming gets much more easier here. So you have all of these different tabs, again, bells and whistles that you would expect of a spreadsheet app and more. The reason I say and more is because this was created for a modern era. It's a much more recent spreadsheet app, which means it has a lot of newer features that would be very useful for the current generation of workers and not for the previous generation only, right? So you have, again, AI built into this, you have analysis built into this, you have a lot of different bells and whistles built into this to make sure that it progresses as a modern day spreadsheet app. Then comes the presentation app, which is the Zoho Show app, which is where I'm running the presentation right now as well. Again, extremely great in terms of design, extremely great in terms of animations. You have all of whatever that you expect from a presentation app and more. You have AI again built into this to help you create new slides, to help you summarize slides, to help you enhance your slide content and things like that. So if you're thinking, okay, are these only web access, or can I also access this on desktop? And say, yes, you can access actually these on desktop as well. Let me just call this. Cool. So if you go here, we have the desktop versions of the Zoho Writer app here. I've opened an existing resume here for some person, just a random document that I have. Again, you can edit all of these, save it back into a docx if you want, or save it back into a Zoho Writer Cloud, Zoho Cloud, and then save it there as well. Same with a spreadsheet app. So we have Zoho Sheet here, which is our own spreadsheet app that also works offline natively with the Mac OS that I have and also in Windows. Same with the case of the presentation app. So you're seeing the actual presentation that I'm running today, right? This is the presentation that I was running today. Is actually built on this native desktop app right here. You can run again, make changes here, make changes to your themes, animations, or again import your existing PPT files or existing presentations that you have, and then bring it back into whatever you want. Awesome. So that's from my side in terms of demo. I'll probably just get back to my slide again. Just give me a moment. I'll start my slide again. Again, in between, if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to drop them. I know I'm covering a lot of information in a quick span of time, so you definitely are bound to have questions. I'd love for you to ask these questions so that we also understand what you're looking at even more specially. Cool. Let me just share my tab again. There you go. I hope all of you can see my screen again. Can I bring the thumbs up back? All of you being very, yeah, you're settling into just listening to my presentations. I'm giving you some tasks. Please do. Do you like the presentation so far, though? So if you like it, do give me a claps emoji so I know that you're enjoying the presentation so far. No, you're still stuck with thumbs up. I like that. Okay, I see some claps coming. Okay, let's go back to the presentation now. So quickly, final part of my presentation before I get into AI as well is about, okay, you're saying, hey, Rakib, I like this. I know some of the questions already are about AD Sync on Microsoft Coexistence and things like that. This is how it roughly compares with your existing Microsoft stack. So I think by now you would have gotten a good idea. So of course, Outlook is Zoho Mail, Word, Excel, PowerPoint is Writer Sheet Show. This is how roughly it would compare into the current system. We also have device management built into Zoho through our sister concern Manage Engine. So some of you would have heard about Manage Engine, which is another brand under the Zoho umbrella that handles a lot of IT security and IT device management and things like that. If at all there is a requirement for you to bundle in device management as well, we already have mobile access management is built into this. But if you want a little more sophisticated device management and endpoint controls and things like that, we have Manage Engine endpoint control also as a service that you can add additionally over the Zoho Workplace ecosystem. We make sure it's easy for you to migrate your apps from your existing system, whether it's Microsoft or Google. So what we have done is we have built-in migration tools. So if you're thinking about, hey, how easy is it to migrate? We actually have built-in tools into migration for Google Workspace and Microsoft 365, which means that you can enter your credentials from Microsoft to Google, link that Zoho app to the Microsoft system, add your credentials, and then start migrating using the wizard. You choose which users have to be migrated, create an ID for them in Zoho, and then start the migration. It's quite smooth. That's something that we do really well. A lot of our users actually enjoy our migration experience as well, because their emails, their folders, their files, everything is actually migrated pretty seamlessly across the board. We also make it easy for you to connect with your existing security stack. Say you have a Barracuda, you have a system, say you have a Cisco Ironport system that you've already established within the company. You can actually connect that with Zoho Mail and use that as a email security gateway with Zoho Mail. Mind you, Zoho Mail already has an email security gateway built into it. We call it Zoho eProtect, which is also available separately if you want. But it is already built into it. But if you want to say, no, I don't want the existing system, I want whatever I'm using currently, you can connect that with the Zoho system as well, so that your email gateway gets connected to Zoho Mail. Same is the case with Active Directory. I do see some questions around this on the chat as well. So if you have a local Microsoft Exchange server or an Active Directory instance already in your company, what you can do is you can do multiple things. You can use Zoho Directory to sync them to Zoho system using Zoho Directory. So Zoho Directory kind of makes or acts as a bridge between the systems that you have. Or you can use this as a coexistence platform where some of your employees are still on Microsoft and some of your employees can come over to Zoho. So how we do this is we call it as a split or a dual delivery system. What means is that say you want to migrate, you think, okay, Rakib has said enough about Zoho, it looks interesting, but I'm sure my entire company might not move. If you have 10,000 employees or 5,000 employees, my company might not move at once. What you can do is you do the entire transition in multiple phases. So during this phase, you can actually have a coexistence setup. Say you have 10,000 employees, you move the first 8,000 employees first to Zoho and keep the other 2,000 really, really picky people who said, no, I don't want to move from Microsoft, keep them still on Microsoft. You do the split delivery setup using the Zoho's split delivery email routing setup that we have built into Zoho Mail. During the setup, what happens is people whose company IDs are actually linked with Zoho gets their emails and calendars with Zoho. Whose emails are not registered with Zoho continues to get it with your Microsoft system. During this entire time, these people can actually communicate with each other on the same email. So the Microsoft email and the Zoho mail system will work with each other. So does the calendar. So you can invite the other person to this person who's on whether Microsoft or Zoho or Google with each other. So the calendars and mails would work with coexistence with each other. A lot of our customers, what they've done is some of them have used this as a gateway to get into the entire system. So this is how, if you want to get nerdy about it, this is how the entire architecture works. So what if some of our customers have done is that they've used this as a phased manner to move some of the customers. So you do like a phase one where I move 5,000 employees, and phase two, I remove the remaining 5,000. During this period, you use a coexistence setup. Or whatever some of our other customers have done is that they've kept this as a permanent setup as well. What that means is that there are some companies that some people in my company will never move from a Microsoft or a Google system. They can continue to be on those systems, live their life happily there. The others can move into the new system and enjoy their life with the Zoho system. So you can do that as a permanent or a temporary setup. We don't mind either. Of course, Prashant and team here at Logix are here to help you out with your migration. If you want, hand-holding with a lot of these systems, I'm sure you can talk to them directly and get help for some of these services. Some of our customers who've done this, let me probably iterate on some of those. Of course, you would have heard about what we've done with Government of India. It is around 20 to 30 lakh government employees across the NIC system. So the National Informatics Center uses Zoho as their email gateway. So they run their emails on Zoho systems, email files and office management tools, office suite tools, and all of that were moved from an earlier system of, say, it was highly dominated by our earlier Zimbra system, earlier Cisco Iron Port system, and things like that. They moved some of those into the Zoho systems and now have a customized Zoho system running on a secure enterprise data center that is managed by the NIC. I also see some questions around bulk emails in the chat. So we do have something called a Zoho Zepto Mail app, which is a bulk email, like an email sending gateway that you can use as a transactional emails or notification emails or bulk email service that you can use instead of using Zoho Mail for that. So Zoho Mail is for your personal inboxes to send and receive between people, but Zoho Zepto Mail is for your bulk email, transactional emails and things like that. Some other customers have done the coexistence setups pretty well. So Capri Global is another customer that we had recently who moved their coexistence setup from Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace to another coexistence setup between Microsoft and Zoho in terms of a coexistence setup within the same thing. Of course, costs that they save is huge that you would expect from a system like Zoho, which has always been affordable and always been rightly priced in the Indian market. But it also helped them integrate a lot of their existing tools with the Zoho system, and also their DLP and their classifications and all of those has been pretty well dominated and pretty well configured well from their entire older migration system. Same is the case with Star Health, which is another company who did another interesting use case here was that they moved from an on-prem system. So a lot of you here who are thinking about moving from an on-prem system, this is your answer. This is what someone like Star Health did, around 20,000 employees who moved from an on-prem Exchange server to the Zoho system. Again, like I said, they use some of the directory systems to pull their users from Exchange, sync it on the cloud, and then move their data in a phased migrational aspect as well. Cool. So before I get into AI, my AI is my final aspect before which I'll have the customers come in as well. Again, if you have any questions so far about Coexistence, please do drop them into the system, into the chat app as well. Okay, so definitely a lot of you will have questions around here. All of that is fine, but we are moving ahead. We're moving with AI. What is Zoho doing in terms of AI and where is it going and things like that? So I'm going to talk to you about things that we already have and things that we're going to have very soon. So we already have things on the first line of things, right? So we already have like ways to generate an email content. Say you want to reply to an email, you're not quite sure how to type and form the entire email content. You can click on a button, generate an email content, and then send that as an AI generated content. You can summarize longer email threads or email messages or chat messages, channel messages. Say you're coming back from a vacation, you have lots and lots to catch up on, you can do that and things like that. So we are slowly working and releasing the other sector of things in terms of agentic AI into Zoho systems, in terms of better triaging systems, like in terms of, you talking to your data directly, pulling your data from your existing data and then talking to it and things like that are something that we're working on. So I want to keep the expectations quite clear here. So things on the top, on the first row, are something that we already have, and the others are something that we're working on. So what are the things that we already have? Like I said, we have email summarization options. We have email, chat summarization options. Like I said, you're coming back from a vacation, you have hundreds of messages to catch up on. All you have to do is just click on summarize messages in this channel in the last 30 days. It actually gives you a neat little summary of what is happening, who did what, who said what, and things like that. You can do the same with videos. So you have a video file, you want to transcribe the entire video and then look into what people said. You can do that. You can also generate emails, meeting summaries and action items. Of course, that's something that you would expect from a system today, where you end this meeting, there is a transcription that is already there. And based on the transcription, the AI generates an action items and keynotes and things like that, that are minutes and things like that, that you can use as reference later. The same thing will also be impacted in your Office suite. So you can create new documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and all that using AI, and just say, hey, I want a neatly designed document for this. It actually understands your query and creates a great starting point. I would say, I wouldn't say these are final documents or these are good enough to be final documents, but it gives you a great starting point in terms of templates, themes, layouts, and things like that. So you get a nice structure to start off with. We're adding, like I said, we're adding some agentic workflows into Zoho Mail very soon, so that you don't really have to look into a lot of these complex email management services, like say filters and rules and reminders and things like that. You can just talk to the AI and set up a workflow quite soon. We're working on that. We're expecting it to be released quite soon. We're also working on an answers within your inbox, where you ask for a question. Based on the emails in your inbox, we give you an answer, we give you who said what and things like that, like a neat little conversational AI within your email inbox, things like that. Again, agents is something that we are working on already, and that's something you can expect Zoho to release quite soon as well. You can also take the other way around. So you say, hey, I don't want to be stuck. So if you're into AI, if you're understanding what AI is doing these days, that models are not the only USPs anymore, right? Models can be exchanged, models should be exchanged. So if you don't want to be stuck with Zoho's own models, you can also bring in your external models. We are always flexible that way. So you can bring in, say, your Claude account, your Anthropic, your OpenAI account and things like that, connected with Zoho, or use Zoho's own system. The choice is yours. However you want, you can do that as well. Okay, let's see a final demo before I hand it over to the next presenter here. I'll just show you probably some AI stuff that we've built into the product. Let me just see 1 second. you go. Let me see if I have this. Okay, so say you have an email here and you want to reply to this. So like I said, the summarize button is right here. You can summarize what is happening in this thread or this entire thread. There are multiple threads here. You can summarize what's happening here and things like that. Very soon you will have an Ask Zia button here, which means it is a conversational AI with which you can ask questions about whatever you're doing with this particular email. Say you want to like draft a reply to this particular email, it will read this email, it will open what's happening and say, hey, yeah, this is what it's replied. And then you click on this, it will actually take that particular content it has generated and then help you reply this email as well. You can do so much more. This is probably the most basic thing that I'm showing right now because of the interest of time, but you can do so much more. There are also agents that will be built up into this. There'll be other things that you can ask to this particular AI and get things done as an assistant of sorts to get you done, be more productive quite easily. Cool. So that kind of ends my demo here. I hope some of you were able to see and understand what I was talking about. I'll be happy to hand it over to Prashant or Animesh here to bring up our customer on board. But again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat bar so that we can answer the questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Rakib. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It was really good to hear from you about the key features about Zoho Workplace. So Rakib has pressed on the key points for Zoho Workplace. And one of a key aspect that he covered in his slide was customer use case. So a lot of customer use case, we saw the name of the brands and the challenge and the solution. So we thought, why not invite one of our customer who is experiencing Zoho Workplace. We invited one of our customer and with us on board, we have Mr. Udaya Bhaskar sir, who is the head of IT. He is from the organization Vishwa Samudra. To give you a gist about the organization, it is one of our fastest growing engineering infrastructure and construction company. And they have a lot of projects from highways to power projects, bridge, dam, so on and so forth. So I request Udaya sir. Yes, sir, Udaya sir, most welcome and thank you for joining us on the short notice. You are on the panel. Over to you, sir. Would be happy to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. So, hi, am I audible? First and foremost thing, and visible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, let me introduce myself. I'm Uday, and I have been in Vishwa Samudra from past 1 year, and we have been trying to get hold of the infrastructure and as well as the workspace workplace management initiatives which have been going on from past 1 year. And one of the tasks given by management was to ensure that the cost reduction and as well as efficiency increase is another aspect which has been given. So as part of that, one of the major overhauling which we done is the email infrastructure. We used to have roughly about 1,500 users, out of which we filtered about 400 users who are at the lower level of email usage. But however, we wanted to experiment that, and we started approaching various email vendors, and we had discussions with a couple of vendors, and we found Zoho to be one of the best suited options, which is the equivalent to our Microsoft 365 stacks like F1 and other stacks which we have been using it. So based on that, we had approached the Logics and also Zoho teams to understand our business requirements and as well as the user requirements, and uh, analyze for our infrastructure. Based on that, we thought Zoho is best suited, and we started negotiating, and as well as our infrastructure requirements and the product requirements. So we finalized Zoho for 400 license, out of which is almost like 30% of our email infrastructure has been replaced. Microsoft email infrastructure has been replaced by Zoho. And currently, we have migrated almost like 350 users from Microsoft to Zoho as such.
So I'll just jump into what role Logix has to play in this adoption of Zoho within your organization. So we basically do the planning. We understand your present ecosystem. What is your present solution? What is that you're using? What size of data are you having? And we then design the solution so that that is the best fit solution from Zoho to be adopted within your organization. We also look at the integration aspects. You might be having AD, ADFS. You will have multiple ecosystems like Office 65. All these are taken into consideration and then design the solution for integration. Then we also look at the migration aspect of it, because this migration is not just about email migration. It is also about OneDrive and other aspects of the apps which needs to be migrated into Zoho. So we do luckily Zoho has provides native migration tools which can be migrated. So data can be migrated from Office 65 or Google Workspace into Zoho. That gives us immense liberty in terms of offering this solution to the customer. Configurations, we ensure that the setup is when the setup goes live, it is prior that the configurations are done in the best practices manner, so that when it is rolled out to the user, it is optimally performing. And we also help in solution adoption, which not only limits to the other applications of Zoho, but also for Zoho Office, which is one of the key aspect of the solution. And the last but the least, we offer the 24/7 support, so that customer is having the comfort of not having to reach Zoho for all their support needs, but to basically have Logix as their support partner and to handhold this journey of Zoho adoption. So this brings to the end of our presentation. This presentation was enriching. This was having it basically gave you the insight that you can adopt Zoho in your environment, and not only save a lot of it is cost economical for the organization, but also will give you all the features and functionality that all the evolved solutions that are present in the market, that will also be given to the user. So this is all from our side. We'll have a poll which basically will try to understand how many of you would be interested to look at the POC or look at considering the discussion to take this discussion further on Zoho. So Animesh, can you just sit?
Yeah, I see the poll is already. Attendees, if you can go to the poll.
Thank you very much. We have got the responses from all the attendees, and thank you once again for attending the session. And we have tried to respond to most of the queries which are put in the Q&A. If there are any unanswered queries, we'll definitely revert back with the list of all the queries, and we'll share it with all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.